Wizard Beanie. In those far-off days in Once-upon-a-Time land, there lived a good, kind wizard. He was called Wizard Beanie because he was so tall and thin that he looked like a beanpole. Now the house where he lived was almost a ruin, and everyone told him he should do something about it. But Wizard Beanie never seemed to have the time. "Why don't you magic yourself a new house?" someone asked him. "What a good idea! I never thought of it," said the wizard. He looked up all his old spells, but the only one he could find was for making a palace, and that would be much too big for him. So he set to work to make his own spell. Then he put on his hat, nodded his head 3 times, waved his wand, and hey presto! The ruin disappeared, and a house stood there instead. But there was one thing wrong with it. The house wasn't high enough for Wizard Beanie. He was bent almost double, and could not stand up at all. Thinking he had made a mistake, he did the spell again, but the same thing happened. He crawled out of the door and straightened himself. He could see over the rooftop easily. Wizard Beanie scratched his head. Now what was he to do? It looked a good strong house. It would be warm and dry in winter, but it was no use to him as he would be most uncomfortable bent double all day. Then he had an idea, and chuckling to himself, he crawled back in and worked another spell. At once the spell began to work. He could feel himself shrinking, and in no time at all he could stand up quite comfortably in his new home. But now, instead of being like a beanpole, he was short and fat. Yes, fat! That was something he wasn't expecting, but luckily his clothes stretched, so he did not burst out of them. One other thing had gone wrong too, but he did not know about that yet. Some of the people from the village had noticed the new house and had come to look at it. "Not very high, is it?" said one. "How on earth is Wizard Beanie going to stand up in there?" asked another. Wizard Beanie smiled to himself and went out to greet them. Everyone stared at him in amazement. "Hello," he greeted them. "Who are you?" one of them asked. "Who am I? Wizard Beanie, of course," he answered, looking surprised. A crowd had gathered by now, and they started muttering. "What have you done with our wizard?" one shouted. "Yes," threatened the crowd. "What have you done with him?" "But I am Beanie," protested the puzzled wizard. "I've only made myself smaller to fit my new house." "Wizard Beanie had black hair. Yours is red," called out a little boy. "Red? Good heavens!" gasped Beanie. "Are you sure?" "Of course we're sure," retorted an old dame. "Look." She handed him a small mirror. "Thank you, Mary," said the wizard. "How is your rheumatism today?" Then he looked into the mirror, and he had such a shock. His hair was indeed red, and he did not look like himself at all. "Oh well," he admitted, "I suppose I cannot blame you for being suspicious when I look like this." "Well, John," he said, looking at the man next to him, "is Daisy the cow better today? And you, Frank, how is your wife now? Feeling all right again?" The people gazed at him. How did he know them all if he wasn't Wizard Beanie? Then he started to laugh, and he was so fat he shook like a jelly. "The trouble is," he chuckled, "my spells never seem to work for myself. Anyway, I must do something to look like my old self again." He went back into the new house, and when he came out the crowd gasped. His hair was black again, and he wasn't half as fat. "Ah, that feels better," he sighed. "Do I look more like myself now?" Everybody laughed and cheered. They gathered around him to touch him or clap him on the back. "You're still plump," said Mary, or perhaps I should say portly." "We can't call you Beanie any more," said Frank. "I think I would rather be portly than look like a beanpole," smiled the wizard. "We will call you Wizard Portly then," laughed John. "Hip hip hooray for Wizard Portly," shouted the children. Everyone cheered loudly, and they were all happy again in Once-upon-a-Time land.